What's up, fam? I'm going over today the 3 KPIs I focus on as a business broker. It's very important. I have 13 years of experience that I'm going to put together in this short video to show you what to focus on as a business broker. So watch the whole video because every single second matters here. So the first KPI, listing agreements. You need to be able to evaluate the business correctly so the seller is comfortable with the valuation and you get a listing agreement signed. But the price has to be a good price. You can't overprice the business because you'll never sell it. You got to price it perfectly. So you have to really understand valuation, and every industry is different, every seller is different, every person is different. So how do you get the perfect valuation on that business that you're speaking to with that seller? So that's a KPI, getting that listing agreement signed. I just picked up Playground Construction Company, and the seller wanted much more money than it was worth. He wanted $5.5 million for the package, the property and the business. I ran it by my lender. I figured out what SBA loan was assigned to the deal. I looked up comps in the area, and I came up with about $4.2 million as a total package deal. That's a $1.3 million difference. I educated the seller. He saw the comps. He understands my track record, and he believes in me. So he believed that he was just way too overpriced, and my price was right. I got the listing agreement signed, exclusively 10 points on the business, and we're on the market. Now that's the first KPI. The second KPI is getting a buyer-seller meeting, and that is crucial in this business. How do you get a buyer-seller meeting? That's tough to get. If you get a buyer-seller meeting, it's 75% more likely to happen. So, for an example, if someone looks at the financials, if someone goes and does their homework, that's a buyer you want to work with that's already investing and looking at the financials, going to the location, looking at the track record, asking you questions. And that's someone you want to push, if they're real, to meet the seller. Now remember, a lot of these buyers, they say they're real. When it comes to showing proof of funds, they got to talk to their dad, they got to talk to their partner, they got to talk to their wife, they got to talk to their dog, and they cannot come to the table. You have to really focus on working with people that can literally write a check, because if you can write a check, you're speaking to like another broker. So remember, how to get a buyer-seller meeting. So if someone's real and they're looking at the financials, I push. Let's meet with the seller. Let's get on a phone call with the seller. I want you to talk to the seller, get his perspective on the deal. Whatever I have to do, I got to get him in front of the seller. Story time. Today, I have a car wash for sale, and the buyer is all the way in Flushing, New York. And the car wash is all the way out by Riverhead on Long Island. A little closer. And that's a 2-hour drive. But I know the buyer is real. I sold her a car wash before. And I know the seller is motivated, and I know the buyer would love this wash, and she doesn't really care about the distance. So I just made sure that they met today. We met in a Starbucks. It was a very good meeting. She brought her manager with her. The manager knows a lot of the same people that I know, that the seller knows, and we clicked. And this would have never happened if we didn't have this meeting. The phone call is just a phone call, but we met in person. We went over the numbers of the business. We went over the location. We went over the operations. We went over the transition. We went over the seller financing. We went over the terms. We went over the lease, and we ironed everything out. Now, the next step after the buyer-seller meeting is getting an offer, putting together a beautiful letter of intent, an LOI, and getting that approved so we can move into a contract. So that's where I'm at with that. So first KPI to recap, listing agreement signed. Second KPI, buyer-seller meeting success. Third KPI, contract signing. So right now at the car wash, I'm in LOI stage. I'm going to get an LOI in place. I'm going to go through negotiations between the buyer and the seller. We're going to get that in place. If everything's great, we're going to simultaneously work on a contract. There's going to be a buyer's attorney, a seller's attorney, me pushing, always pushing both sides. I have to push both sides because as business brokers, we represent both parties. We represent the seller and we represent the buyer because the goal is to make money. So I'm going to get an offer from this buyer on the car wash. I'm going to present it to the seller, and I'm going to push them both to be 85% happy, because in every deal, you have to be 85% happy. No one can be 100% happy, or else it'll never be a deal. Someone has to be a little unhappy, but mostly happy. Doesn't make sense to a lot of you out there, but once you get into deals, you understand what I'm talking about. All right, third KPI, signing the contract. Once that contract is signed, the deal is 90% going to happen. There's a 10% deposit up. It's a lot of money. This is an $8 million deal. It's $800,000 up out of your pocket. The money is not working for you. You're putting it signing a contract with another attorney that you don't know. So that's a big commitment right there. Contract, you have usually a 10% deposit, and you have a due diligence period. Due diligence is usually 30 days to 45 days, sometimes 60 days, depending on how big the business is. This is probably going to be a 60-day due diligence period. It's an $8 million deal. And once that due diligence period is over and the buyer is okay with moving forward, then we go into just the final paperwork, the lien search, the bulk sales. You have to order a bulk sales, which is basically making sure that the business owner doesn't owe any state tax. So it's called the AU 196 form in New York. The buyer and seller fill that out based on the allocation in the contract. We send it to the state, and the state is going to approve it and send a clearance letter back. Once that's sent back, then you're clear to close if everything's kosher. So just to recap again, 3 KPIs. Number 1, listing agreement. Make sure you value that business right. Number 2, buyer-seller meeting in person. That's going to lead to a much stronger LOI, which will then turn into a contract. And number 3, getting a contract signed, because 90% of the deal will be done once the contract is signed. I hope this video helps everyone that's trying to buy and sell businesses. Please follow, like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Thanks so much.